There's a point in retirement planning where everything changes, and it's not when you hit your first 100,000. It's not even when you cross 1 million, but when your accounts reach about 1.5 million, that's when retirement becomes a completely different game. At this level, the conversation is no longer just about survival. It's not, will I run out of money? It's, what do I do with all of this? You have more flexibility, more risk, and a lot more to lose if you make the wrong move. And so in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why retirement looks different once you save $1.5 million and what decisions you now need to get right if you want to protect your wealth and enjoy your freedom and retire with clarity. So let's get into it. When most people picture retirement, they think about stretching a modest nest egg, clipping coupons, watching every dollar, delaying travel until someday. But if you saved $1.5 million or more, you're in a very different position. And that requires a very different mindset. At this level, you don't just hope your money makes it to 85 or 90. You can likely retire comfortably if you make smart decisions. The game isn't just about saving anymore. It's about coordinating taxes, withdrawals, Social Security, Medicare, investments, even your legacy. And this is where people get caught off guard because the advice for somebody with 300,000 doesn't apply anymore. Here's a question that I often ask people in this stage. If you suddenly had an extra $500,000, would you feel free to spend it? Or would you freeze up, afraid of making the wrong move? And I've seen both reactions. And the difference always comes down to whether there's a clear plan. With no plan, people hesitate. With a plan, they feel free to actually enjoy their money. When you're still saving, risk is about chasing growth. Volatility doesn't bother you much. You've got time to recover. But at $1.5 million, and especially once you're close to retirement, risk means something else. It's not fear of the markets, it's fear of regret. Fear of locking in losses when you need income during a downturn. Fear of losing what took 30 plus years to build. And the scary part, a handful of bad years early on can undo the decades of hard work that you've already put in. And that's what sequence of returns risk is all about. I mean, imagine you retire right before a major market crash. Even if the market recovers later, your portfolio may not because you were withdrawing during the worst years. I recall one couple back in 2007. Within 18 months, their balance had dropped by nearly 40%. And the markets eventually came back, but it took many years after that for their accounts to come back because they were taking withdrawals at the same time. And that's the power of sequence of returns risk. And this is why you need a more surgical approach to risk. Growth is still important, but now you also need stability. And that could mean perhaps a protected income floor, a bucketing strategy, or a risk-based guardrails approach and withdrawal system. And when this is set up correctly, you can look at market downturns and say, I'm still fine. My income is secure. I don't have to panic. And that peace of mind is worth just as much as the returns themselves. Now, let's talk a little about taxes. Let's say that you have $1.5 million in pre-tax retirement accounts. I mean, it feels like you made it, right? But every dollar that you withdraw is taxed as ordinary income. And once you hit age 73, the IRS forces you to start taking withdrawals, whether you need that money or not. The bigger your balance, the bigger your tax problem becomes. You might go from a 12% tax bracket in your early 60s to maybe a 22% or even higher tax bracket in your 70s. Not because you're spending more, but because the IRS is making you take more. I've seen retirees that were shocked when their tax bill increased quite a bit, almost overnight from one year to the next, not because they lived a more expensive lifestyle, but because their RMDs pushed them into a higher tax bracket. They thought they were done with surprises, but the IRS unfortunately had some other plans. And it doesn't always stop there. High withdrawals can trigger up to 85% of your Social Security benefits being subject to tax and higher Medicare costs as well. This is why Roth conversions and strategic withdrawals and even charitable giving strategies can become so powerful. Imagine the difference here. Paying taxes at the 12% marginal rate today, perhaps on your terms, versus being forced into the 22% tax bracket later on per the IRS's terms. That single decision could mean thousands of dollars over the course of your lifetime. Once you hit $1.5 million, your freedom expands and you can travel You could gift a family. You could retire earlier than planned. You could fund passions or causes. You could take Social Security when you want, not when you're forced to. But here's the paradox. More money doesn't always mean more peace of mind. It can create more second guessing. Now you're asking, should I work part-time? Should I help my kids now, or should I leave it in my estate? Should I buy that second home, or will I regret spending this now? One client that I work with had the means to buy a vacation home, but they stalled for years. They were worried that it might be the wrong move. And when they finally did buy, their biggest regret was waiting, because they lost years of memories with their grandkids. More options equal more uncertainty. And that's why you need to define what retirement actually looks like for you. And here's another thing that's important, and that is the mindset shift from being a saver to becoming a spender. And this might be the hardest shift of all, because you spent 30 to 40 years saving and sacrificing and being disciplined, and now suddenly you're supposed to flip that switch and start spending. It sounds simple, but for most retirees with $1.5 million or more, it's emotionally tough. You feel guilt. You second guess. You worry that enjoying your money might somehow threaten your security. Here's a quick story. I once worked with a couple who had over $2 million saved, and they could have easily bought a new car, but they drove the same 15-year-old sedan because they felt guilty about spending. That mindset of being frugal helped them to get them to where they were, but now it was stealing their joy. On the flip side, another couple that I worked with created a permission to spend plan, and they knew exactly how much they could spend guilt-free each year. And the difference in their happiness, it was night and day. I mean, these folks, they traveled, they helped their kids, and they still stayed financially secure. Remember, you didn't build this nest egg to just sit on it until maybe you're 90 years old, right? You built it so that you could live fully right now today. This is where mindset matters as much as math. A permission to spend plan can help. So can withdrawal guardrails and working with a planner. Now, once you save $1.5 million, retirement stops being about if you can retire. It becomes about how to do it well. You now have the opportunity to live by design and not by default. With that comes complexity and risk and pressure to get it right, and that's why strategy matters. And here's the final question that I'll leave you with. Do you want to spend retirement second guessing every decision, or do you want a clear plan that gives you the freedom to enjoy it? If you like a personalized strategy that helps you protect your wealth and helps you to spend your money with confidence without the guilt or second guessing, then I invite you to click on the link in the description to learn more and schedule a call with me. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.